My name is Keely Kennedy, and today I'll share findings from a course-based project that revisits a classic topic in cognitive psychology: how the number and type of decisions we must make affect how quickly we can press a key. Using data collected through the APA's free online psychology laboratory, we compared three simple but powerful paradigms: simple reaction, choice reaction, and go/no-go. By the end, you'll see that even in a web browser, milliseconds still reveal a lot about the hidden architecture of the mind. Proceed. First, we'll set the stage with a short history of mental chronometry, the science of timing mental events, and explain why decision load matters beyond the laboratory. Second, we'll sharpen the big picture into a specific research question and 3 hypotheses. Third, I'll describe our participants, tasks, and analytical approach. Fourth, we'll look at descriptive and inferential results. Finally, we'll discuss what the pattern means, acknowledge limitations, and sketch future directions. I'll close with a few practical takeaways you can apply in teaching, interface design, or everyday multitasking. Research dates to 1868, when Franciscus Donders pioneered the subtraction method. He showed that pressing a button for any light is faster than pressing different buttons depending on the color, and both are faster than pressing only when a stop signal is absent, as in the stop/no-go paradigms. Subsequently, work by Steinberg, Luce, and Jensen quantified the typical costs: roughly 50 to 75 milliseconds for response selection and up to 150 milliseconds for motor inhibition. These differences, though tiny, scale up in high-stakes settings. Think air traffic control or competitive esports, making the topic continuously relevant. That backdrop, our guiding question was simple: will the classic hierarchy, simple, faster than choice, faster than go/no-go, still appear when the task ran inside a modern web browser? We formulated 3 directional hypotheses. H1, mean reaction time in the simple task will be shortest. H2, the choice task will be shorter than simple. And H3, the go/no-go task, which requires active inhibition, will be shortest of all. The set contained 444 undergrad volunteers, 345 women, 97 men, and 2 who identified otherwise. Ages ranged from 18 to 60, with a mean of just over 23.6 and a standard deviation of about 6 years. All data were de-identified before public release, so the project meets the criteria for exemplary secondary analysis. No new consent was required. While the sample is modest, it closely mirrors typical lab studies in this lecture. Participant completed 3 blocks whose order was random to prevent practice or fatigue from confounding the comparison. In the simple block, any colored square on screen promoted a single space bar press. No discrimination needed. In the choice block, participants pressed Z for green squares and M for red squares, demanding stimulus identification plus response selection. In the go/no-go block, they pressed space for red squares, but withheld any response to green ones, adding an inhibitory step. Each block contained 20 to 30 trials, preceded by brief instruction and 8 practice trials. Established best practices. We trimmed biological impulsive responses. These below 150 milliseconds, likely anticipants, and those beyond 3 standard deviations, which often reflect monetary distractions. On average, they removed about 2% of trial participation. We then conducted a one-way repeated measure ANOVA with greenhouse geyser correction to test the main effect of task. Partial ETA squared supplied effect size. Because reaction time distribution are positively skewed, we verified robustness using a non-parametric Friedman test and Wilcoxon signed rank contrast. Finally, we calculated Cohen's DZ for each pairwise comparison. Your picture. Simple reaction averaged 496 milliseconds. Choice 425 milliseconds, and go/no-go 576 milliseconds. Variants were comparable across conditions, and individual plots showed nearly every participant following the predicted rank order. These raw numbers already hinted at subsequential cognitive costs, about 70 milliseconds when choosing between keys, and an additional approximate 150 milliseconds when the brain must sometimes stop the pre-potent response. Confirmed a statistical reliable task effect. The results indicated that 7% of within-person variance in reaction time was attributed to decision load. Pairwise contrasts were all significant after Bonafoni adjustments. The Friedman test replicated this pattern, ruling out parametric assumption artifacts. First, they replicate the century-old hierarchy in an entirely browser-based environment, strengthening confidence in remote research platforms. Second, the magnitude of the choice cost, around 70 milliseconds, aligns neatly with Jensen's influential estimates, suggesting response selection time remains surprisingly stable across devices and decades. Third, the inhibitory cost, circa 150 milliseconds, supports serial stage models in which a final break must engage after stimuli categorization. Together, these findings demonstrate the brain's efficiency, but also its inevitable delays when juggling alternatives or suppressing impulses. With caution. A sample of 444 limits the detection of suitable monitoring effects. Browser timing, though impulsively precise, can still vary with hardware latency and background responses, adding noise. Further studies show recruit larger, more diverse samples, including device type covariances, and perhaps pair behavioral measures with EEG to map the neurological chromatography of decision load. Another promising avenue is using adaptive algorithms that titrate decision complexity trial by trial, allowing personalized cognitive load curves. Our curiosity. For educators, this turnkey dataset provides an accessible demonstration of repeated measure ANOVA and data clearing decisions. For interface designers, the results remind us that each extra menu level, confirmation dialog, or color coding scheme incurs real-world time penalties. And for safety critical fields, think driving or security. Understanding inhibition delays can inform protocol training that builds automatically where milliseconds matter. 1. Decision low robustly shows human reaction in exactly the order predicted to classic theory. 2. Modern online platforms can capture millisecond scale effects with minimal specialized equipment. 3. The pattern reinforces serial stage cognitive models in which sectional and inhibitions are distinct adaptive steps. Keep these principles in mind the next time you design a task, an app, or even your daily workflow. List is available in the accompanying paper, including original works by Donders, Sternbeck, Luce, and the APA OPL team. I'd like to thank my professor, Olson Popek, for her feedback, and thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer questions or discuss collaboration ideas after the session.